Hello and welcome to Quilt Addicts Anonymous. I'm Stephanie Soebbing. We are coming to you from my dining room today where this all started because I have COVID again. It's not been a fun week. First of all, we got our subscription club fabric on the 23rd, which we normally have everything shipped out by the 22nd, so that is incredibly late. So we got it on the 23rd, and within about 3 hours of receiving the fabric, my husband got a terrible stomach bug. And then my older daughter got it the next morning. So my youngest daughter and I went to a hotel because she has viral induced asthma. We were trying to avoid her getting sick. And at some point, the two of us caught COVID. So it's not been fun. And then yesterday my water heater also went out. So we've been taking cold showers. It's not been my week, but we did get the quilt finished for you. I tested positive at like 1:30 in the morning after the dog woke me up. And I went in and I quilted the whole thing between 2 and about 5 a.m. So that way you guys would be able to have it and I would be able to finish it at a time when my other team didn't need to be in there. So we were able to get it all done. All the bundles are now out. So big thank you to the Quilt Addicts Anonymous team. They did a fabulous job. Now back to the purpose of today's video. We're going to do a quilting play-by-play. So this is the quilting that I did at about 2 in the morning. And so it actually was really easy. So the pattern is called Sound Waves. And we had just done a straight line quilting for frequency. So I didn't want to do that again, although that would totally work for this, especially if you've got a home sewing machine and you just want to use your walking foot. You could absolutely do that and just go straight up and down the middle of these. But what I wanted to do was wavy lines because they're such a versatile quilting stitch, and I wanted to be able to just kind of pop back and forth within the sound wave, both the print and the background, to create that wavy texture that you see when you look at sound waves if you're looking at an audio file somewhere. So that's what we did, and it was really fun. I used a green thread for the quilting within the fat quarters. I've said this before, I'll say it again, green is a neutral. So I used cellar green for that and then just a plain beige for the background. So what we're going to do now is we're going to watch it as I actually quilt it, and I'm going to describe what I'm doing and why. And that way you guys can get some ideas on how to replicate this at home, either on your home sewing machine or your long arm. All right, so you can see I started in the middle because I wanted to kind of create this wave going back and forth. So essentially what I did was I popped back and forth from the middle of the top to the middle of the bottom, and then I'm kind of crossing around the middle of the next one into the next piece. So that way I can kind of create like a wave that both has points at the top and bottom of each one of those strips and really kind of fills it out nicely. I like kind of not a super dense quilt, but like a sort of medium to high density. I really love the texture that creates. I'm not a super big fan of having like big wide open designs because I feel like this just looks really nice. And you can see that green texture, you can see it on that blue pretty well, but the rest of them, it's kind of just like been hidden. It's really kind of nice. Where it just kind of blends in for most of those fabrics. And there actually are quite a bit of green in here. Here, obviously, you don't see it at all. I was not super concerned about whether or not the lines crossed over one another. I just wanted a wavy line going up and down. And if you want to learn more about how to do wavy lines, we have an entire segment on it in our free Intro to Free Motion Quilting Series that you can watch over at quiltaddictsanonymous.com. We have some kits that you can get to go along with that, and they really are pretty fun to do, and you learn a lot of stitches and end up with a finished quilt at the end that you can use to sort of be your sample to go back to. And so that you can absolutely learn more about it there. But this is just such a versatile stitch. I've used it so many times in so many different ways to sort of highlight this, and I think it was perfect in this application because it really helped accentuate that sound wave design of the Sound Waves quilt. You know, I'm just able to customize it to make it work as I'm going across, and because I loaded it, you know, top to bottom, and those sound waves kind of went up and down as they went across, it's able to kind of grow with the strips and that density isn't compromised at all. It still looks the same whether it's a short strip or a long strip. I do think that it did look a lot better in the longer strips. Wasn't as huge of a fan of it when we got to the tiny little bits, but it's just small, so it's not a big deal. But essentially, it's pretty easy. You just kind of wiggle your way down to the middle, and then you're going to eventually move over to the next one. So we wiggled our way to the top. Now we're going to wiggle our way to the bottom. And now we're going to wiggle our way over to the next piece, crossing over about center. But again, that doesn't matter so much, just as long as you cross somewhere in the middle-ish. And then you repeat. And you can just keep going with it as you go. My largest strip here was 14 inches. I quilt on an APQS Lenny, and that was just wide enough to be able to do what I needed to do here. And I'm short, I'm 5'2", and so like I have like this, you can see here, I didn't love it in this little bit. I didn't love the look of it in that little square, but I think it looks great in like anything that's over like 2 inches. I love the way this looked. But so I've got like my sweet spot, right? When I'm doing my long arm, if I'm way out, like you don't have control of the long arm at that point. And so that 14 inches is all I can handle anyway. So if you're looking into getting a long arm, then that's something to keep in mind. Are you gonna do the computerized quilting? And if that's the case, then the bigger the throat, the better, because you can get a lot more done in one pass. But if you want to do hand-guided machines, you need to keep your wingspan of your arms into account, because if you're stretched too far out, you won't have control way out there. Because I have worked on machines that have like a 3-foot throat space, and it's just too much. It doesn't work for what we're doing. But the Lenny is perfect for me, being a short little person. But I know I'm on the shorter ends of things, and there are bigger machines if you are a little bit taller and you have a little bit more wingspan than I do. But this is perfect for me, and I can fit almost anything that I want to do. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 times when I've had to kind of roll the quilt a little bit in order to fit what I wanted in it, and I've done like 100 quilts or so. So this is really, it works for most applications. But you can just see that I'm just popping back and forth with that, and you can see that that green thread looks really fabulous with all of it. So like, don't be afraid to use your colored threads in there, because you can really make it work, and it just kind of blends in, and there's enough of the green in there to where it just looks like a little bit added bonus to it and not something that's taken away. So when I'm thinking about thread choices, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about, is this going to add to what I'm doing, or is it going to distract from the piecing? Because I always want to use the texture and the thread to accentuate the piecing, not to take away from what I've done, because I worked really hard getting this together and I love the way it looks, and I want it to be enhanced by my quilting and thread choices, not detract from it. So I'm gonna let you guys go because I need a little bit of drink of water here, and then you guys can watch me finish the rest of this row, and then we're gonna do the background. All right, so what you're seeing me do here is sort of base down the edge of that quilt. I really wanted to do that with this one because everything kind of wanted to like scrunch in a little bit. And this way I was able to keep everything nice and square along the edges. I don't always do that, especially on the right side. I definitely always do it on the left side and the top and bottom, but not always on the right, because sometimes the fabric can kind of shift this way. But you can see I was able to keep it nice and aligned with the quilts that's on the roller, and that'll keep everything really nice and square. And then I'm doing the same thing on the left side as I start the next row to just really keep that nice and square and base that down. This is something that I didn't realize was a thing until I sent my first quilt off to be quilted by Natalia Bonner, and it came back with this done all around it, and it was just fabulous. It was the most square quilt I had ever received, and I had done a lot myself at this point, but I didn't realize that if you did this rather than just pin the edges, that it would make such a difference in having those nice square edges. So since this one, I'm starting in that middle again, which may seem counterintuitive because it is kind of weird to start in the middle of a block, but since we were transferring over in about the middle, when we were transferring over, like right here, I'm going to pass over to the next strip in about the middle. I wanted to do that again for this one so that it looked continuous, like it had continued on the line. As essentially this quilt is technically kind of offset in its piecing, whereas the larger parts of the sound wave kind of alternate from row to row, so that way they kind of fit in nicely together. But the rest of this is the exact same as before. It's just I really wanted to make sure you guys saw the process of both basting down those side pieces so that you can have a nice square quilt. And I do this on like every single quilt that I do. I base that down. Sometimes I do the right side, sometimes I don't. It just depends on how much I think the fabric is gonna move on me. But for this one, I definitely did the right side as well. But the rest of this is going to be the exact same as what I did before. We're just going to be bouncing back and forth. I'm going to pop back on here as we get to the end of this row just to talk a little bit about process. So normally when I'm using 2 thread colors, I will quilt all of the larger real estate section with 1 thread color going from top to bottom, and then I will go from bottom up using whatever the secondary thread color is. Most of the time it's actually the background that has the most real estate on the quilt, but in this case it actually was my fat quarter fabrics that had more in it. We had about 4 yards almost of fat quarter squares in here and 3 yards of background. So that's why I started with the fat quarters and that green thread. So on the long arm I'm quilting straight from top to bottom. If you were working on a domestic sewing machine, you would want to start in your middle row and then work your way out until you got to your ends, so that way you can evenly distribute everything as you're going. But I find it a lot more efficient, rather than changing threads every single time you roll your quilt, to do the entire quilt with 1 thread and then go back and do your second, third, fourth, however many threads you want to do. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm getting everything done. You can see I haven't done anything in that background yet. That's going to come next once I finish doing all of my fat quarter squares with the green thread. All right, so now I've changed threads to go with that beige thread that matches my background color pretty well. And you can see I'm kind of going back and forth, and the camera's shaking some, I'm not quite sure why. But it is really just the exact same process as before, only I am using the background thread only and just going back and forth with that. And you can see at this point I've done all of the fat quarters first. You can see I've done that, and then I'm going back and forth with it. And it really was a very, very fast finish. It took me about 3 hours to do a twin size quilt with this, and that was with my thread changes and all the rolls and everything. So it just goes to show you that it really can go super fast when you are using those wavy lines. All right, well, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you some ideas on just, again, how versatile wavy lines are. Again, if you need an introduction to that, we have an entire segment on it as part of our Intro to Free Motion Quilting video series. You can watch those for free, but we do have a quilt kit, a pattern, and a stencil kit to go along with that to help you build that muscle memory. This quilt is called Sound Waves. It's part of our Stashing with Stephanie Club. You don't have to be a club member to get the pattern or the kit. We do have supplies left for both of those and a bunch of yardage. So you guys can definitely get some goodies and make this happen. We typically only promote Stashing with Stephanie at the end of the month. But as you guys heard at the beginning of the video, we had one heck of an end of the month, both with our fabric arriving incredibly late and then with my entire family being sick. So we just didn't, and you know, it's February, so you have 2 to 3 less days of the month anyway. So we are promoting it today. We wanted to wait to put this video out until most of our subscribers had their fabric. So just know the reason why we don't promote it at the beginning of the month is because we ship all the bundles of 1 month payment the following month. So just know that if you sign up now in March, your first bundle will not ship until around the 22nd of April. And that allows us to know exactly how much we're going to have. If there's fluctuations in the amount of fabric, we're able to make adjustments for that. So that way we can have enough to get to our members and then also have them have some extra fabric available if they want to turn their bundle into a quilt kit. So if you love this and you want to join, it's a great club to be a part of. You get 10 fat quarters every month, plus a free pattern that's been inspired by that fabric. And you get access to our other Stashing with Stephanie quilt patterns for free as a digital version. And you can get $10 patterns if you want a printed pattern instead. I know some of you guys would prefer that. You also get an exclusive 20% off discount on additional fabric. If you're a member of the club, what we do is we create finishing kits. And what that is it is the fat quarters you didn't receive in your bundle, plus background and binding. So that way when you combine your finishing kit and your bundle, you have essentially a complete kit to be able to make the quilt as I have. And you can always just get whatever you want to go with it and have some fun with that and do whatever you want, because you have access to all of our other Stashing with Stephanie patterns that you can be inspired by as well. You also get an exclusive discount on my books, Fat Quarter Workshop and Fat Quarter Patchwork Quilts. So if you get inspired, you want to join the club from this, what I suggest you do is sign up, and then on your second purchase, our website will know that you're a subscriber. You can get whatever patterns you want, and you can get the kit for this quilt at 20% off. Plus, we still have kits from some of our other previous stash and quilts. You can get all inspired, do whatever you want to do with it. And then you have something to keep busy with until your first bundle ships on April 22nd. I know that's a long time to wait, but that it usually takes us 2 to 3 weeks to get everything ready and shipped out. And we need to know exactly how many bundles we need to make so we can get them prepped up and ready to you. And some fabrics do sell out right away. Once we give it to our subscribers, we give them a 24-hour head start. So we want to make sure that everyone gets that same chance to get additional fabric. So that's why we wait. That's why you're going to have to wait if you sign up now. But I promise you it's worth it. It's a great club to be a part of. All right, well, I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it's given you some great ideas for wavy line quilting and how quick and easy it actually can be. But it really creates a really fun design and a great density that you can control based on how many waves you want to get in there. All right, until next time, happy quilting.